always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to how we deal with a troubled world and the pain we feel. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. We were clearing away the debris on our property from the recent hailstorm, but I found something that made me pause. In behind many layers of branches of the dogwood tree, I found hidden a thistle that was almost 5 feet tall. I knew I needed gloves to bring this beast down, but I also remembered this. William S. Halsey wrote, "All problems become smaller if you don't dodge them, but confront them." Touch a thistle timidly, and it pricks you. Grasp it boldly, and its spines crumble. Unquote. They say that character is what you are in the dark. I think character can also be defined as how you handle yourself during times of trouble. It was John F. Kennedy who said, "Only in winter can you tell which trees are truly green. Only when the winds of adversity blow can you tell whether an individual or a country has courage and steadfastness." In times of trouble, this hour, with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Elton John. Sorry seems to be the hardest word. And the Beatles, and Let It Be. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. We look around us at a world that seems, sometimes, to have quietly gone mad. And we wonder how to deal with it when things make little or no sense. You don't have to look beyond the TV news or the newspaper headlines to know that our world is oftentimes a troubled place. This hour, some thoughts for when it gets to be too much. Fulton J. Sheen wrote, "Some people have a belief that every tree, when it burns, gives back the colors that went into its making. They see in the flaming logs the red of many sunsets, the purple of early dawn, the silver of moonrise, and the sparkle of the stars. So it is with us. What we have accepted into our hearts and made a permanent part of ourselves is given back in times of trials." Fulton J. Sheen. And Washington Irving wrote, "There is in every true woman's heart a spark of heavenly fire, which lies dormant in the broad daylight of prosperity, but which kindles up and beams and blazes in the dark hour of adversity." Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Shylights, Oh Girl, and Train, Calling All Angels. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Robert Browning Hamilton wrote something called Pleasure and Sorrow. I walked a mile with pleasure. She chatted all the way, but left me none the wiser for all she had to say. I walked a mile with sorrow, and ne'er a word said she. But oh, the things I learned from her when sorrow walked with me. Author John Selden wrote, "Pleasure is nothing else but the intermission of pain." Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Sarah McLachlan with Angel from City of Angels. Whitney Houston from the soundtrack to the film Waiting to Exhale and Exhale. And Phil Collins and Can't Stop Loving You. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I don't necessarily subscribe to the notion put forth by John Selden that pleasure is nothing more than the intermission of pain. I would hope you wouldn't agree with that cynical outlook on love and life. But our lives can't be expected to be filled with pleasure all the time. This is called Make a Pearl. It was written by Harry Emerson Fosdick. Most of us can afford to take a lesson from the oyster. The most extraordinary thing about the oyster is this. Irritations get into his shell. He does not like them. He tries to get rid of them. But when he cannot get rid of them, he settles down to make of them one of the most beautiful things in the world. He uses the irritation to do the loveliest thing that an oyster ever has the chance to do. If there are irritations in our lives today, there is only one prescription. Make a pearl. It may have to be a pearl of patience, but anyhow, make a pearl. And it takes faith and love to do it. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. David Cook with The Time of My Life and Roch Voisine, Am I Wrong? I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Joseph Fort Newton wrote, "Trials are medicines which our gracious and wise physician prescribes, because we need them. And he proportions the frequency and weight of them to what the case requires. Let us trust his skill and thank him for his prescription." William Arthur Ward wrote some years back, "Wise are they who have learned these truths. Trouble is temporary. Time is tonic. Tribulation is a test tube." Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Deborah Cox and Beautiful You Are. And Faith Hill and There You'll Be. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I'm Don Jackson. Finally, this hour, the comforting words of Khalil Gibran from the prophet published by Knopf. And a woman spoke, saying, "Tell us of pain." And he said, "Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. Even as the stone of the fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so must you know pain. And could you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons that pass over your fields. And you would watch with serenity through the winters of your grief." Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is the bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. Therefore, trust the physician and drink his remedy in silence and tranquility. For his hand, though heavy and hard, is guided by the tender hand of the unseen. And the cup he brings that would burn your lips has been fashioned of the clay which the potter has moistened with his own sacred tears. An excerpt from the Prophet, published by Knopf. Lovers and Other Strangers, from iTunes and CHFI.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.